Huh?
Wondering where to pause for the photo.
Okay, so good afternoon once again, colleagues, those that are here and those that are online. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this afternoon's webinar titled Recent Developments on Research Integrity. My name is Ivan Kimuli, and I'm a research scientist with the Makerere University Learning Institute. And I am delighted to serve you as your moderator this afternoon. As a way of introducing this, I think we all appreciate that the global landscape demands pressures to publish, pressures to collaborate across borders, pressures to translate findings into real-world impacts. And the importance of research integrity has never been greater in such circumstances. So today's discussion will explore new trends, emerging policies probably, and evolving challenges that have been seen in the implementation of research. And we are delighted to have a well-known speaker in this area. And allow me to invite Professor Jonathan Grigg, who is a professor of pediatrics, or pediatric respiratory and environmental medicine, and is the Deputy Dean for Research Integrity at Queen Mary University in London. He is also an honorary consultant pediatrician at Barts National Health Sciences Trust, London, and an honorary professor of pediatrics, University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban. So his recent research focuses on the effects of particulate matter, air pollution on children, and trials of therapies to prevent wheeze in young children. Professor Jonathan, you're welcome, and please take us away.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the kind invitation to talk. I'm really enjoying my visit with Rebecca Nantanda, with our mutual interest in asthma and improving asthma control. I'm going to talk about something that's completely different, but it's been a long-standing interest of mine, and that's been creating an environment which maximizes the best research integrity, the best quality of research. And I'm going to present a little bit about some of the things that have, as Ivan said, recently developed and will be developing over the next few years. I wonder if we could just share the screen. And that's, okay, maybe I can do it actually. There we go. Okay. And I hope everyone can see that, and I hope everyone can hear me. So the font has somehow completely changed on uploading here, so apologies for things looking a little bit basic, but I think we'll just carry on anyhow. Normally when we think about research integrity, you get a whole list of what is counted as misconduct, things which are clearly have gone wrong and you shouldn't do, which is things like stealing other people's ideas, copying text, software, data without permission, representing other people's ideas as your own, and just outright fraud, making things up and presenting them as real data. So these are the sort of misconduct areas. Unfortunately, in my role, I don't have to deal too often with anything like that. I'm usually dealing with suboptimal research behavior, what I call sloppiness in research, probably. Things just not being correct, and then others identifying it and bringing it to our attention. And we have in Queen Mary standard operating procedures to deal with allegations. And an allegation can come to us, we'll screen it, if we think there's something in it, it will go on to a formal investigation, which includes independent people, and then there's a result, a formal investigation. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about these areas, which I think are very interesting and will be continuing to develop. And the one thing that I think that we should, as university, try and think of in the same way as clinicians do, when we think back at our mistakes, we should be learning from the mistakes of others. And often things that have gone wrong are rather hidden away. They're not really made obvious. There's no individual who's disseminating the lessons to be learned. And I think that's, of course, if you're a clinician, you know that's really important. There's do that. But what if you could just mute? Could everyone just mute? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Right, I think this.
Thanks so much, W.
Sorry, could everyone make sure they're muted, because I think we can hear something coming through. Oh, that's great. So we live in it. Oh. Yeah, we live in an environment where our research is being looked at very, very carefully. And I don't know if you know this website called PubPeer. It's worth having a look. It's an open access website where people post observations after papers have been published. And often these observations are related to errors in the papers. And for example, I just chose this as one someone has posted, query same graph. Yes, it clearly is the same graph, reporting two different measurements. So something has gone wrong there. And this has happened for Western blots specifically, and now is increasingly being detected using screening software, which compares images within papers and across papers. So an image that has been published about 2 years ago and then reappears 2 years later will now often be picked up. So we live in an environment where these things, which can be honest mistakes, are being picked up and noted. And what we see as in the university, often someone will just send us this link to say, look, sort this out. If this is published, for example, by someone at Queen Mary, which we wasn't, it's just a random one. So we will get this and say, well, what's happening? And then we'll have to screen that paper and come to some sort of decision about what's happening. And sometimes, and clearly ask the author about, to explain what's happened. And PubPeer has led to the major sort of retractions that you hear in the press. For example, this a former cancer researcher hits 35 retractions. And these are also not hidden anymore. For example, these are reported by another website called Retraction Watch, which also reports what's happening about papers which have been withdrawn or changed. So we live in a completely different environment where, say, issues are no longer hidden, which I think in the past they tended to be. One thing which underpins good research integrity, and which is also very important when we come to look at papers which someone has said there's something wrong, is where are the data, where the data is stored. And as part of that, we've recently asked one of our smaller groups a survey about where they store data for their papers. Now, often these are laboratory data, these aren't clinical trials. And as you can see here, these are the responses for various papers. This is paper one, they were asked about 4 papers. And you can see 24% of people were storing their data on their own computer. The third was on a sort of a server, which is obviously the data will be continued and to be kept there for at least 10 years, and some on a commercial repository. The point of this is that those individuals who are storing their data on the computer, often the computers break down, they get stolen, you can't access the data, which makes it very difficult when we are asked to comment about an image or paper. If we don't have the data, we can't comment And we have to say, well, we can't exclude some degree of research misconduct. So having a very clear way of storing data and metadata, which is data explaining the data that you stored, is really, really important. Here, the answers were about 40% of people stored data, but didn't store anything of their metadata. So you look at the data, you wouldn't know what is what. If it's an Excel file, it'll have a coded columns, and you wouldn't know what those data explain. So metadata really important. Universities do have active data storage facilities. This is our website at Queen Mary, active data storage. There is capacity to store up to 1 terabyte of data on their data storage. But often many researchers in our institution haven't got a clue about this. They don't know that it exists. They don't know. And also it's really difficult. It's really difficult to store that data. It's not very easy. It's not intuitive. It's not like some sort of Apple program, which is very intuitive. You need to know your way around it, which puts people off storing data in a repository, which means their data is secure and also archived. Some universities, I think, do it better. This is Imperial College, and they have sort of a link where you can click on storing live data, managing sensitive data. It leads you through a variety of various things and then allows you to upload data. I think that all universities should be thinking about providing this easy to use service. So, of course, you have to be mindful of anonymizing data at the clinical trials, but I'm not talking about clinical trials. I'm talking about other sets of data. So maintaining data accuracy really critical. I don't obviously need to tell anyone here that's the case, but things that you need to think about is to have a view about how you're going to store the data at the start of your study, how you're going to archive the data, where you're going to archive it. You should have a study protocol with at least a provisional analysis plan. The analysis plan will obviously develop later sometimes. And the point is that if we are asked to look at an issue, should be able to reconstruct your tables, your figures from the stored data. Should be able to sort of forensically reconstruct it. And with that, we are opening up data. It's transparent. People can say, I don't believe your data, there it is. You can do your own analysis, but the analysis I report is accurate. I'm going to change a bit. So talking about data, so data really important. Another thing that I often get involved in is things to do with authorship and attributions and citations. This is sort of in a grey area. It's usually an argument between individuals about attributions. The first thing to say is when you are writing a paper, be careful to try and include references which are relevant, directly relevant, and avoid self-citation. The reason why I'm saying this, it'll become apparent a bit later on in this. And also, this is that provide proper credit for original sources of idea and data and quotes. You never go wrong if whatever you say is then quoted and referenced appropriately. That's absolutely right. So, but just be mindful, I think, when you're writing these papers, and also grants as well. Authorship. Today in our meeting, we, as correctly one should have discussed aspects of authorship. It should be something that you should feel free to ask and discuss at the very beginning of the research process. It might change, but at least it's agreed. And the word that sort of the things that I've come across is where authorship hasn't been agreed, and it all gets a bit messy at the end. It should be an open discussion. And in general, of course, if you're first author or last author, that's pretty important. Maybe joint first, joint last, or everyone in the middle. Well, it doesn't really matter that much. You've contributed to the process, but the position is not really that important, at least in my opinion. one of the issues that I come across is where a PhD or a postdoc or some researcher has generated some laboratory data, which it looks very interesting, and then they go off and basically leave the institution. And then because there might have been some disagreement with the supervisor or whatever, the communication is not there. And then it's a mess about who is included on the paper when you submit it. If there's some extra work being done, who's going to be the first author, who's going to be the last author? And we've had to mediate, not necessarily my institution, but in the previous institution, we've needed to mediate this process. And I think you can head this off by, again, making sure that when individuals leave, you have actually agreement where what's going to happen. What's going to happen to the data? Does it need more data generated? What's going to happen to authorship of that? This should be discussed, and one shouldn't be shy about this. This is just normal academic practice. It shouldn't be very embarrassing to discuss these issues. And the other thing to remember is that the data that you've generated, for example, here or in Queen Mary or whatever, belongs to the institution. It doesn't belong to you. So actually, the institution could decide to do what it wants with it. You don't have necessarily the final say, but of course, you may be a guarantor of its quality, Okay. You can look up all information about what should happen with authors. There's guidance, the ICMJE, the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. They think about this a lot because they often get lots of issues and they have to decide it. And then there's why authorship matters, who is an author, and non-author contribution. So this is probably worth a look if you're envisaging publishing several papers in your career and having an idea what are the roles. And often when you submit a paper, you have to state who does what. But this gives guidance about what categories you can use to state your contribution, individual contribution. From the editorial point of view, so editors often see these disputes. They say, well, look, it's not up to a publisher to decide anything to do with authorship. That's not our business. If there is an authorship dispute in a manuscript that's submitted, what they will do is they'll put the paper on hold, ask the group of authors to agree before they can move forward, or if there's no agreement, they will then go back to the institution and ask it to arbitrate. And I've had to commission people to arbitrate in these sort of disputes, rarely, but I have had to do that. And just to point out, signed acknowledgement documents don't necessarily mean the individual who signed them have signed them. We all know that signatures can be cut and pasted and various other things. And if this happens after a publication, well, it may need a correction. You might have to put a correction in the literature. Another area which causes issue is collaborations. And the ones I've come across which have caused issues with collaborations are, for example, an individual in an institution has signed up, has contributed in some way to a clinical trial done in another country under another sponsorship and whatever, and then something's gone wrong, the trial goes pear-shaped, it gets retracted, and the question is, what due diligence should you do with collaborations? Not quite often the diligence, someone over very long periods of time, you trust them, and then trust is really important. But I'm just putting it out there. I don't have an answer about the degree of due diligence you should have. I should say, though, that you should be able to, any person as part of a research enterprise should be able to see the data that's been generated or published, see the raw data, and look at it themselves. So, it's always a bit of a red flag if someone's saying, no, I'll send you the summary data, but I won't send you the raw data. So yeah, it should be a transparent process. So that certainly helps that. But some people have been caught up with basic crooks, someone who's made up data and it's been involved in a bit of their paper, and their whole paper has had to be retracted. So it does happen. It does happen. And again, the way we can head this off a little bit is things like data transparency. Data should be transparent to all. We should, of course, trust and confidence. Don't collaborate with someone who you really don't know at all. It's not, that's a bit of a danger. There's a bit of difference between the way the institutional arrangements with, let's say, universities and the personal. Okay. I'm sorry, we've got another muting, please. Thank you. This is the recommendations for collaborations with the University of Sydney. I just pulled them up from the internet. As an example. Collaborations need to be mutually beneficial, clear and frequent communication to ensure everyone's updated, and obviously the appropriate contracts and agreements in place. So these are things that you should just bear in mind when you ask somebody to do a bit of work which contributes to your overall research. Less of an issue now, but was an issue a few years ago, is disclosures. We all have to fill in disclosure documents when we upload a manuscript. And I think the bottom line with disclosures, the disclosure forms on the right are very clear what you should do. But I think the bottom line for disclosures is not what you think is relevant, it's what others might perceive as relevant. So that's a much broader definition. So, if I was, let's say, talking about air pollution, and I was I had intellectual property in, a car, something to do with a car, I can say, well, it's nothing to do with the exhaust or car. There's nothing, but it's actually relevant. It's in the same. It's the cars and air pollution go together. You should definitely disclose that. And there's no problem. I mean, the point is you put that out there, and other people can interpret it. There we are. There's an example, classic example. New York university professors defended vaping, but didn't disclose that they had ties to Juul, which is a vaping manufacturer. I mean, that's just an example of this sort of clear problem with inadequate disclosure. So I'm going to change a bit. So this is, I'm just emphasizing some of the areas that I've dealt with and I will be dealing with, I'm sure, over, going forward. But I want to highlight another area which I think is really critical, which is spotting bad things, bad science. I think we need to do this more and more, given that the access to people who are producing bad science is becoming easier and easier. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. I think it's a wild west out there. It's a wild west of people generating stuff, getting it out, and it's, if you like, flooding genuine researchers. I think it's going to be a tsunami, if you like, it's going to get bigger and bigger in terms of what is quality, how can we judge this? An example of this is just an email that was sent to me. This is an example. I mean, these are all filtered out normally by my spam filter, but I just picked it up. This is an email from Alex Clark, and part of the medical research archives of the European Society of Medicine, saying, "Oh yeah, thanks, you had a great paper. Would you do something for us or submit something in the environmental field for us?" And it looks all very all reasonably. And if you go to the website, there we are, Medical Research Archives. Looks all very, and European Society of Medicine looks all very genuine, I think. I would say everything clicks through. But as a cynic, I do a little bit more digging, and normally I would just forget about a journal that contacts me and I don't know anything about the journal. I forget it. I wouldn't even engage. But here I did a bit of digging. Their address. There we are. There's an address. They have an address in Switzerland. It looks pretty good. Geneva, Switzerland.
and Covina in California. So if you look at Street View for the Californian place, this is the office. And if you go a bit more, it's just a remote mailbox somewhere in California. It's just a forwarding address in California. Looks okay, but it's rubbish. And there's nothing more. And there's nothing underlying. There's no names of who owns this journal. There's no, there's no information about this. And if you do a bit more searching, you can see, for example, University of Macau said, well, it's this, just beware of the emails sent out from this. Don't take any notice from this. And I'm sure you all get these emails all the time, dear blah, blah, hi, how are you? Will you do something? This is all spam. And obviously people are trying to make money because we've opened up science, which is probably a good thing. And they're trying to get money for you to try and publish something somewhere in some poorly peer-reviewed, if peer-reviewed at all, predatory journal. And in addition to predatory journals, you've got predatory conferences. So, hi, you're a great publisher. We invited you to come to Wuhan or wherever in China and talk to us about something, and we'll be a plenary speaker. So they're predatory conferences as well. And the recommendations I give to our researchers for all of these things is there are wiser people around who have more experience. So ask them, if it's a supervisor or a senior person, ask them about what's going on. You can do what I did, search for the on names. If there's a conference or a journal, on name of a conference and the organizer, this is specifically related to conferences. You can see if a conference is affiliated with a established scientific association such as the European Respiratory Society or whatever. You can check the venue is the venue is actually going to host that event, and there's lots of warning signs: poor spelling, lack of contact details, unofficial email addresses, all these things, chat boxes. So these are all warning signs that something's going on. Okay. Another issue related to bad science are paper mills. I don't know if you've come across paper mills. Is that a paper mill? So there's paper mills are, there are different types of paper mill. One paper mill is that someone has got a paper accepted in a journal and then they sell slots for authorship. So they actually get money to stick someone else's name, additional names in the journal. And of course, the warning sign for that is after acceptance, other names appear for very little reason. So that's one type of paper mill. But there's also paper mills where basically guys in offices just making up papers, producing fake reviews, having everything fake, and with the aim to sell the accepted paper to an individual. And in some countries, the number of papers that you publish seem to be really, really important. And so there's a huge pressure on people to do this, and they'll buy a slot or have a made up paper published. This is from Nature. This is the paper mill problem. Huge, just going up and up and up. So journals are seeing more and more and more of this. You wouldn't see it as a producer of research, but if you take an editorial role, you may well see that. If you're an associate editor or an editor of a journal, you'll be starting to see this issue. And one other way of people using paper mills is to bump up their citation index. So they buy their name and then they increase their H index up and up and up and up. So these guys in Scientific Report, using a fictitious name just to see if it's possible, purchased 50 citations. So just by paying money
they could get cited 50 times. Yeah, so it's a big problem. People are very, very devious, that's for sure. We live in an area now, I've moved from paper mills, but we're living in an area where there's a lot of pressure for data to be online, freely available, which I think most of us would say is good. You know, there's a big survey in environment called NHANES, huge survey, it's all online, everything's available for people to go into. And now this paper showed this, basically showing how individuals are going into these databases and just looking at any old association and reporting it. So this is a network of associations from the NHANES, which supported by paper mills, which will associate, I don't know, ingrowing toenail to cancer or something. No, it's completely stupid. And they've just picked out some association which seems to be positive and then generated a piece of a paper which reports its association. So this is a genuine data, but sort of analyzed in an ingenuine way or a disingenuous way. And this is obviously increasing when we have AI is able to do this. AI can go into a database and generate a paper for you. So you go and say, find association, write a paper, and it will do it for you. And we're in a different view. AI is going to transform everything, and it's also going to transform bad science as well as good science. And this is, journals are trying to catch up, universities are trying to catch up with AI. So this is the Lancet recommendations. I think it's probably true for quite a few journals. You only use AI like ChatGPT if you want to improve readability and language. So where individuals haven't got English as their first language, it can actually be very helpful to do that. Clearly, it's a bit like, you know, an extended grammar checker, if you like, spelling grammar checker. But it cannot and should not be used to produce any new scientific insights. It shouldn't be used at all to analyze and interpret data, and it shouldn't be used for drawing scientific conclusions. So it has a very limited role in terms of improving your language. But clearly people are using it. And if you're using it, that's fine for the Lancet, but it has to be disclosed at the end of what you've done has to be transparent. So after the paper had been written, I wrote my conclusions, I ran it through ChatGPT, for example, and it improved some of the language, and I checked that it didn't change any of my conclusions. As an example, where it is. But it's going to, at some point, you're going to have some data and you're going to literally ask AI to generate the cookery. It will do that for you. One warning thing about AI, of course, is once you put it in an external system, it's out there. You've lost it. It's going to be used and reused by the AI. So we have in our university, you do not put data into AI at all because you've lost it. It can generate its own paper. You can steal it if you like. So you have to be really careful. Another editorial view, they see increasing papers generated by AI, and they check things. This is an example. This is from a journal where they check things. That gives their warning. For example, a no DOI link. They have a thing called Edifix, which does this for them. And if the Edifix doesn't pick up a high rate of real journals, then that's a worry. So invalid, inadequate DOIs and things like pass rate, which I don't know, but these journals are checking this and finding many papers where AI has, for example, generated references. The author has not generated the reference, AI has done it and stuck it in. I asked ChatGPT about itself, what should the rules be? And this is what it came up. It says disclosure and transparency, tools cannot be authors, human oversight required, avoid using AI for generating novel scientific content, do not interpret data, acknowledge assistance, respect data privacy, citation generator must be verified, and I gave an example of the statement. I think that's pretty straightforward, actually. That's pretty impressive. So, you know, it is impressive to generate information that you might want, a list of information. So it's going to get more and better. It's going to get better and better. So we're going to have an idea how we're going to use this in a way that is going to reduce the amount of effort that we need to do to present our own research without compromising its integrity. Big, big challenge. Another thing you may or may not know about is synthetic data. Synthetic data basically takes a huge database and models it in a way that it produces sort of data which obeys the statistics of that database, but it isn't actually from individual patients. So it's one way of anonymizing actual data. This, for example, can be used to test, you know, algorithms or tools for detecting things such as, I don't know, kidney failure from huge data sets of readings from patients. It allows you to do that without compromising, the need to keep those data anonymous. But I just highlight that because I haven't heard of synthetic data till just recently. And yeah, I'm coming to end now. So threats, I don't need to talk about threats of data. This is our friend, Robert Kennedy Jr. And he's proposing that all government-funded research is published in-house by their own journals, which is a very potentially dangerous step because, of course, they can be involved in the editorial process. Even PubMed is under threat. It's funded by NIH. They might just stop it. Yeah. So we need to think about what happens, or they may remove journals they don't like. You know, journals that have published things related to pro-vaccine research could be removed from PubMed. So we're in a potentially very dangerous area. We need to be very vigilant about the quality of data, especially when we have individuals who are, you would say, anti-science in some cases. And there are a lot of resources. So if you're interested in this area of research integrity, getting a good research environment, supporting individuals so that they are protected, in the same way as when we're clinicians, we will write everything in the notes. If it's in the notes, you're sort of protected. No, I examine the chest. If you don't write this is from the UK. If you don't write, I examine the chest, then if someone drops, have a heart attack or something, you're in trouble. If you wrote, I examined the chest, it was normal, then that's fine. So the same way is we need to make sure that our data is stored and available. And there's a publication ethics, UK RIO, which is UK Research Integrity Office, has a lot of information, and some others. And you can search on YouTube. There's some very nice lectures by individuals on aspects of research integrity. There, in fact, is a world conference of research integrity. The next conference is going to be in Vancouver next year. It's held every 2 or maybe 3 years, every 2 or 3 years, where the advances in research integrity issues are discussed and presented. And there's also academic research related to, for example, data storage and the like. So thank you very much. And I hope I haven't scared you, but I think it's a really interesting area. I think we should be working in an environment which supports us to perform with the utmost integrity, and which we all want to do, but we should be supported by our universities to be able to do that, rather than just saying it's up to us. It's a joint thing between a university administration and individual researchers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this presentation that you just made. Quite enlightening, but scary. Just like, hope you haven't scared us, but we are scared. it's a tough time in which we live. Recently, we had a discussion and we were wondering whether the university should embrace AI. When we give students tests and we ask them to produce results, and then they bring back these results, and then we check whether they have used AI to actually get these results. We ask ourselves, is that something that we should let be, or we actually shouldn't? And we were guided that why was AI actually put out there? To make life a lot simpler. So it's a difficult time for us. We don't know whether we should continue with the traditional heartbeats or we should embrace AI and make life simple for everybody. Because surely ChatGPT has a lot of information that it has stored for all of us. Everyone is feeding in something, and I don't know what is going to happen in the next many years. So we are scared. We don't know what it's going to look like 20 years from now after everybody has actually written something in ChatGPT about themselves. So Prof has taken us through a number of things. One that I have appreciated is the pubpeer.com. I think it is important for us to, as researchers, to look there and see what people are writing about our papers. You took us through authorship issues. You took us through collaborations and how we should handle them, and the need for transparency, disclosures, supporting bad science, and then the paper mill. I don't think I know the paper mill. Damali, do you know the paper mill? I've never seen one. Maybe Rebecca. Rebecca. And the paper mill, an interesting area. And then, of course, the issues of data protection and data storage. Now, it looks like when I was coming into this presentation, I was a bit concerned that are we going to talk about research integrity and what is research integrity, or are we going to talk about research ethics? I'll invite questions at this point in time. And for those that have questions that have been put in the chat, we shall look at them. But in case you have a question and you want to say it out loud, we'll give a chance to 1, 2, or 3. But kindly post the questions there. So Prof, maybe as we look for the questions in there, I just wanted to ask, where does research integrity and research ethics, where is the fine line? Where do they seem to be doing the same thing, and where do they not seem to be doing the same thing?
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I assume, or I've made the assumption that everything that is being done is under ethical approval. So clearly that has to be done. So yeah, I mean that's taken as read. I mean, of course, the ethics committees may have different views from from researchers about what can be done. But for me, for my role, I don't get involved in the ethics part. If someone hasn't had ethical approval for a project, clearly that's misconduct. Straightforward misconduct. So that's not that I might be involved in screening and then moving it up to a formal investigation if someone hasn't, let's say for a trial, has not got ethical approval for a component of that study. But then for me, I don't put any intellectual sort of worry into that. That's for me, it's just the ethics part. So you need to get that sorted before you come to do anything.
Right. So in a situation, in an institution like ours, who would be in charge or responsible for research integrity? Because I know the IRB is in charge of the research ethics.
Yes, that's correct.
So who would be in charge of?
So I report to the Dean of Research from the medical school, and I sit for the Dean of Research. I also report to the Dean of Research for the university. So it's the Dean of Research, whose job is to deal with all these issues related to to misconduct or poor research practice. The ethics committee, if ethics approve its approval or it's not approval, and then we will then judge the ethical status. Is just checking the ethics committee approval. That's all. So yeah, we don't discuss anything with the ethics committee. It's purely the research deans.
Okay. All right. So we have some questions here, and so I'll read it out to the rest of us here. Which one was the first one?
Yeah, the one was IP, I think it is. In the area, how is intellectual property protections likely to change? Okay, having a son who's an IP lawyer, I should be able to answer that, but I can't easily. All I could say is that, as I said, when you put something into AI, you are losing your protection. That's it. So anything related to intellectual property, you cannot put into AI, at least AI that is not ring protected. So this is the question about if you have a university AI ring fenced, then you probably can do that. But commercial, these open chat GPTs or whatever, you are losing AI. It's the same as reporting it, putting it out there. So that's my view is that you have to assume that your intellectual property will be lost. And so you're going to have to be very careful how you use AI in terms of papers that patent applications. So you could produce an application for IP using AI, but that has to be within a protected environment.
Okay, so we have a question from William on the test of AI use. What is the permissible percentage use? What's acceptable anyway, as some people can use AI to improve on their documents?
This is where I think people are unclear. There's no definitive answer. However, if you have a very high percentage of use in, let's say, introduction and a discussion, then you are at risk of actually what you mean being changed to something else. I think that's my definition. If there's a chance that so this may have, if you can use the word may, this may be causing this, and AI changes to this does, then you're in problem. The other thing I didn't mention with AI, it can get schizophrenia, it can have hallucinations, it can go completely mad. It can produce completely bonkers and erroneous references. It can quote its own self. So, the AI generated content feeds back into the AI, and then it gets into a loop, which becomes weirder and weirder and becomes just like some sort of crazy rubbish. So we're not yet, it's not yet perfect. I would see it, the best use of it is just improve your language in an abstract or something. If you wanted to craft something, and you are not, you don't want to have your own particular stamp on it, then you might be able to use it, or use it as a template for crafting your own writing. Other people do that quite a lot. They may run it through AI, but don't use the AI, but then use that as a sort of a draft to write. So it's all evolving is the answer to you. Yes, certainly in 10 years' time, it's all going to be different. But I do think we'll have ring fenced. It'll be ring fenced, and you won't have this commercial stuff.
Okay, we have a comment from Beth. She's saying in the revised guidance document, research integrity issues are handled administratively and not by the reg per se. Then she asks, do you think there's need for a separate guidance document on AI? I guess this is AI in research, or prevailing documents and laws prevail.
Separate AI document. I mean, the charities, the grant are now starting to come up with their own recommendations for how you use AI. They're very similar to what I gave. Be transparent. You can use it. But these are all evolving all the time. So I think transparency is everything, in the same way as when you do I think, if you're doing it on a manuscript, what I would have is the same way as when you do a revision. You do a compare and you show where the areas have been changed, and where AI has generated the language and has changed your language. That would be transparent. But I don't think that's been done at the moment. But the answer is, I think the guidance would be out of date within about, within a couple of weeks almost.
Beth is at the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology.
All right. Okay.
So she has very
Yeah.
And the videos.
So how do I unmute?
You have unmuted.
And where's the video?
So the video is down. AI is just rewriting it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So Beth is continuing to ask, where do we draw the line when investigators use AI in proposal development, especially in interventional studies? Is it right? Should RECs and NRAs start screening proposals using AI checkers?
Yeah. This sounds like something that Beth knows more than I do about what's going on. Again, I'd say the same thing. I have no problem with someone using AI as long as they've disclosed where it's been used and that the intellectual aspect and the results aspect haven't been changed in any way. So I think you probably need to sort of have a statements which says where it has been used and where it hasn't been used. Yeah, and that's as far as I can go. I mean, I got a grant turned down about 2 months ago because two reviewers said it's full of typos. So I think I probably may have got the grant if I'd run it through AI because I always make typos all over the place, and so it could be very useful.
Okay, so I see a hand from Professor Chirenga. Professor Chirenga, please go ahead and unmute. Air out your question or comments.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Jonathan, for the wonderful presentation. This presentation is very, very timely because of this AI issue. Probably I was surviving with our research integrity at whatever level, but I think AI is trying to tip this over. I have 2 comments, which you have mentioned, Jonathan. If AI behaved like Google, only compiling what is available, that would not have been a problem. The problem is what is called synthetic data, the way it creates data which does not exist, the issues of hallucinations. On a couple of times, actually, I have faced this when AI has told me lies. It created something beautiful, but it was not there. So I think as universities and regulators, we may have to start interfacing with AI developers and say, probably give them feedback of attributes which are not good. The other one, Prof, which I would want you to comment on, which actually also probably is more evident here in low-income countries, is building capacity of people to use AI. AI is going to do bad, but do people really even know how to use it? For example, people on this meeting, how many of you know how you can upload your data into AI to analyze it? So probably, Prof, you are talking something which actually is ahead of where we are. I think what we need is, first of all, learn how to use AI. Then we can now start complaining that it is causing us problems. But we don't know even how to use it. Of course, the young people have learned, but the older people, we are still here for maybe 30 years, And many of these senior executives, people leading universities, research institutions, probably have no idea how they can use AI. The university, we have gone through draft 1 of AI policy, and actually also didn't see so much in there how we are going to build the capacity of people, how much AI is there. For example, 20 years ago, we were struggling to know how many analysis software are there. You learn to use Stata, you learn to use this, you learn to use this. But here, that gap is there, and all of us have jumped onto the bad side of even what we have never used. So in summary, I think your presentation really is very topical. I know the recording is going to be available. We can share it widely, Ivan, across the university. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, very perceptive comments. I mean, AI is the best liar in the world. There's no doubt about it. It will lie elegantly in your face and without a blink and quote everything to justify its lies. So you're quite right. I think you'd have to be, I don't think we're in any position to put data in for data analysis, because it could easily just, say it's using a test and not use a test, just make things up. I think it only works where you've written something, you know what you're trying to say, and all you're doing is going to trying to craft something slightly better. And also, if you wanted a list of, I don't know, all the universities who have AI guidance, AI might be very useful to do. It could go into all the websites and pull all that down, just give you all the guidance. That's, for lists and information, it may be okay. Although where I've used it to get lists, there's always some lie in the middle or incorrect thing. So, even that is not accurate. So you're quite right. We should emphasize where it could be used, but where definitely it should not be used at the moment.
All right, thank you very much. We are running out of our time. I don't know if there's a hand from here. Any questions from within here? It looks like the people that came to the source don't need any other to understand. So, colleagues online, we are coming to the end of this. I don't know if there's any other comment. I see Robina has written that she believes our best safeguard against AI is not to avoid it.
Yeah, that's it.
But to learn how it works and what its limitations are.
Yeah, agree.
Robina, you're spot on, because we are all in agreement that there is no other future. It looks like the future is AI. So how do we make sure that the future is bright with AI? So, Prof, maybe one last question. Misconduct sometimes moves with penalties. So how can an institution like ours come to terms with wanting to penalize those that have performed misconduct or have acted as bad scientists, and at the same time, as an institution, you still want results for you to shine. So where is the middle ground?
Okay, yes. Again, a difficult, complex question. There are clearly individuals whose behavior is so egregious, they have to be let go. As an HR issue, they must go. The university can't. If someone who's, for example, made up data of a clinical trial, which has impact on patients, is so bad that this would be very egregious. But quite often where we have in my experience, have identified suboptimal practice, people may be reusing an image for a control, for example, or sort of those sort of things, sort of bad practice, then we would put restrictions on their action for a certain period of time, for maybe 1 or 2 years. They can't supervise PhD students. They would have to be supervised by their dean of research. So we would actually institute a sort of educational supervision package, as well as having issues related to whether they can apply for grants. So we have had quite significant decisions against people who we think of need to be re-educated in a way.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof, for the
Very good.
wonderful presentation, and I hope everybody has picked up something that they're going to implement in their practice of research and elsewhere. Colleagues,
MLI at 10, Kalango.
okay. There's a question there, just.
Just think to tell the people about MLI at 10.
Okay, no, there was a question there.
Yes. Thank you very much for organizing this.
I can't, this is related to how many different AI programs which are better and which are worse. I don't know is the answer. I don't know. All I would say is that I don't know an AI program that could reliably analyze data. That is not, if you like, some sort of statistical program with some component built in. I don't know. The answer is, yeah, like you, I'm still learning. But we still, amazingly, the quality of the essays that we often set for the students have dramatically improved. So they must be using all that. They must be using it all the time. Improved their language. I don't know if they improved their what they say.
Thank you very much. Send it to the lines about MLI at 10. I think I've spoken about this.
We were not complaining, Dr. Sidi, but thank webinar. We had another webinar in with regards to epidemics, and we have specifically arranged to let you know what MLI has done over the last 10 years of its existence. A lot of research, a lot of clinical care, and a lot of training. So we are featuring some of the activities that MLI has been able to accomplish as we celebrate a good 10 years. We have webinars featuring these activities. We have community activities that you will see will participate in radio talk shows and other activities around the city, trying to promote lung health and trying to help our community work towards healthier lungs. And then we are also going to to culminate all these activities into festivities in November that we welcome you to join. On November 27th and 28th, we will have a science symposium, and then later we shall unveil we shall start showing you where we want to go, our future after that 10 years. So we welcome you. We shall be communicating, of course, in the different avenues that you accessed this particular webinar. So please look out for those and do come join us, celebrate with us, and see where you can actually join and participate along with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Damali. You know, it was only testosterone that was airing their views out. So we needed a bit of estrogen.
We were not complaining. Thank you very much.
Damali, we shall talk after this. So colleagues, I want to say thank you. And I want you to join me to give Prof. Thank you very much, Prof, for honoring our invitation to speak to us about research integrity. And we hope that everybody has picked something, a thing or two about research integrity. Colleagues, keep your ears on the ground. There's a lot that we are doing that is going to end on the 26th, 27th, and 28th November into the main celebrations of the MLI at 10, like Damali has told you. But there's a jam-packed 2-3 months ahead of us that is going to involve literally everybody. So keep your ears to the ground. We'll be updating you on the next event that we should all be attending. Thank you very much, and I wish you a nice